The research station, Meridian 7, floated in the darkness of space like a silver coin spinning through an endless ocean. Outside the thick windows, a neutron star pulsed with regular beats of radiation, its surface rotating so fast it made Day One's head hurt just thinking about it. But that was his job. He studied things that made normal people dizzy. Day One sat in his small room, staring at numbers on his screen. The room was simple, almost bare. A bed that folded into the wall, a desk with his computer, a small window showing the neutron star in the distance. He had lived here for 2 years now, and the walls felt closer every day. Tonight was late, past midnight in the station's fake day and night cycle. The corridors outside were dim and quiet. He rubbed his tired eyes and reached for his cold coffee. The data from today's probe was strange. The magnetic fields around the neutron star were acting up, making patterns he had never seen before. He needed to figure out why, but his brain felt like mud. The door to his room slid open with a soft hiss. Day One jumped in his chair, nearly spilling his coffee. Nobody came into his room without pressing the door button first. It was basic manners, especially on a space station where privacy was rare. He spun around, ready to snap at whoever had barged in. Yoon-hee stood in the doorway. She was tall, taller than most humans, with skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Her compound eyes looked like polished gemstones, reflecting colors that changed as she moved. She was Valorian, one of the 5 alien species working on the station. Day One had worked with her for months, always finding her polite but distant, following every rule and procedure with perfect precision. This was not polite. This was breaking every rule she usually followed. Yoon-hee? Day One said, confused. What are you doing? Is something wrong? She walked into his room without answering. Her movements were smooth and careful, like a cat stalking through tall grass. She came close to his desk, close enough that he could smell the strange, flowery scent that Valorians had. Her compound eyes fixed on him, unblinking. Watch closely, she whispered. Her voice was soft but intense, like she was sharing a dangerous secret. Before Day One could ask what she meant, she reached past him and touched his computer screen. Her long fingers moved fast, typing commands he did not recognize. The screen flickered and changed, showing something completely different from his research data. Video feeds appeared across the screen. Dozens of them, small windows showing different parts of the station. Day One recognized the medical bay, the engine room, the cafeteria, even some of the private quarters. These were security cameras, but not the normal ones. These showed angles and rooms that regular crew members should not be able to access. What is this? Day One asked, his voice rising. How do you have access to these cameras? This is illegal. We could both get kicked off the station for this. Yoon-hee did not look at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screens. I need you to see, she said. I need you to help me understand. Understand what? Day One was angry now, but also curious. He looked at the video feeds, trying to make sense of what she was showing him. Yoon-hee pointed to one screen. It showed Hai-won, the station's medical officer, working in the medical bay. The lights were dim, meaning it was supposed to be her off-duty time. But there she was, organizing supplies and checking medical equipment. She looked tired but focused, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Look, Yoon-hee said. She finished her shift 6 hours ago. She should be sleeping. But she is working. Why? Day One shrugged. Maybe she forgot something. Maybe she could not sleep. Now look at this one. Yoon-hee changed the focus to another screen. This showed Jin-ho, a human engineer, lying on his back under a recycling unit in one of the storage rooms. Tools were scattered around him as he worked on the machine's internal parts. That recycler was not on the repair list, Yoon-hee said. It was working at acceptable levels. He is fixing it even though nobody asked him to. So what? Day One said. Jin-ho likes to fix things. It is his hobby. Hobby. Yoon-hee repeated the word like it was something strange and foreign. She switched to another video. This one showed Mi-sun, a teenage intern, sitting cross-legged on her bed with a tablet in her lap. Mathematical equations filled the screen, complex formulas that were way beyond what an intern needed to know. She is studying advanced mathematics, Yoon-hee said. Topics that are not part of her training program. Topics she will probably never use in her job. Why does she spend her free time learning these things? Day One was getting frustrated. I do not understand what you are asking. People learn things. People work extra hours. People fix stuff. This is normal. Yun-hee finally turned to look at him. Her compound eyes seemed to glitter with emotion he could not read. No, she said quietly. It is not normal. Not to my species. Not to any species I have studied. This is specifically human behavior, and I do not understand it. She stepped back, and the confident mask she usually wore seemed to crack a little. I have been watching the human crew members for months, she confessed. Secretly, on behalf of the Valorian Science Collective, they want to understand why humans perform better than expected in crisis situations. Your species is not the strongest, not the smartest. Your technology is average compared to most spacefaring civilizations. Yet somehow, when things go wrong, humans find solutions that nobody predicted. Daewon felt his anger turning into something else. Curiosity, maybe? Or concern. So you have been spying on us? Yes. She did not look ashamed. And the more I watch, the more confused I become. Humans do things that make no sense. You work longer than you need to. You learn skills you will never use. You help people who cannot repay you. You fix things that are not broken. By every logical measure, you are wasting time and energy. But, Daewon sensed there was more. But the data shows this waste somehow makes you stronger, Yun-hee said. Her voice was full of genuine wonder. And I cannot explain how or why. That is why I came to you. I need a human to help me understand what I am seeing. Daewon leaned back in his chair, processing everything she had told him. Part of him wanted to be angry about the surveillance. Part of him was intrigued by the mystery she was presenting. He looked at the video screens again, seeing his fellow humans through new eyes. Were they really doing something unusual? Or was Yun-hee just overthinking normal behavior? If I help you, he said slowly, and we find that humans are just normal, just average, will you report that to your science collective? Yun-hee nodded. Yes, I only want the truth. Daewon thought for a long moment. Outside his window, the neutron star pulsed its regular rhythm, constant and predictable. Inside the station, humans were doing unpredictable things for reasons even they might not fully understand. Okay, he said finally, I will help you. But we do this properly. No more secret surveillance. We talk to people. We ask questions. We figure this out together. For the first time since entering his room, Yun-hee's expression shifted into something that might have been relief. Thank you, she said. Daewon closed the secret video feeds and pulled up a blank document. Let us start by making a list, he said. Every human behavior you find strange or wasteful. Then we will investigate each one. As they began working together, neither of them realized how important this investigation would become. Neither of them knew that very soon all those wasteful human habits would be the only thing standing between the crew and disaster. The neutron star outside continued its steady pulse, but inside its magnetic fields, something dangerous was beginning to build. 3 days passed before Daewon and Yun-hee could meet again. Their regular work schedules kept them busy, and they had to be careful not to raise suspicion. The station was small enough that people noticed when crew members spent unusual amounts of time together. They finally found time in one of the small observation lounges during the night shift. The room was empty except for them, with a large window showing the neutron star spinning in the distance. Yun-hee had brought her tablet, filled with data and observations she had collected over the past months. I started watching humans 6 months ago, Yun-hee began, her voice quiet in the empty room. The Science Collective asked me to study human work patterns and social behavior. They wanted statistical data, nothing more. I thought it would be simple. She showed Daewon graphs and charts on her tablet. At first, the data made sense. Humans sleep approximately 8 hours per day, like many species. You eat regularly. You follow work schedules. But then I noticed the deviations. Deviations? Daewon asked. Humans consistently work beyond their assigned hours, Yun-hee said, pointing to a red line on one of her graphs. Not because of deadlines or emergencies. Just regularly. A Valorian worker completes their assigned tasks and stops. Efficiency demands this, but humans continue working even after tasks are complete. Daewon thought about his own habits. How many times had he stayed late in his lab, double-checking calculations that were probably fine? How often had he run extra simulations just to be sure? We like to be thorough, he said. Thorough, Yun-hee repeated. That word keeps appearing in my notes. But it is not efficiency. Efficiency means using the minimum resources to achieve maximum results. Thoroughness means using extra resources to achieve the same results. By definition, it is wasteful. She swiped to another chart. Then there is learning behavior. Most species learn what they need for their jobs, then stop. Continued learning requires energy and time that could be used for other activities. But humans? She shook her head in confusion. Humans learn constantly. Things they do not need. Things they will probably never use. Daewon felt defensive. Learning is good. Knowledge is valuable, is it? Yunhee challenged. Misun, the intern, spends 3 hours every evening studying mathematics far beyond her job requirements. That is 3 hours she could spend resting, socializing, or engaging in recreation. Instead, she fills her brain with information she may never apply. How is this valuable? What if she needs it someday? Daewon said. Exactly, Yunhee said, her compound eyes gleaming. What if humans prepare for situations that may never happen? You over-prepare constantly. My species finds this deeply puzzling. She showed him more data, lists of human behaviors she had cataloged. Jinho fixing machines that were not broken. Hae-won checking medical supplies twice as often as required. Woo-jin, another human crew member, practicing zero-gravity navigation in the simulator even though he worked in the botany lab and never needed those skills. Every human on this station does similar things, Yunhee said. You all maintain skills you do not use. You all learn information beyond your needs. You all work beyond minimum requirements. The science collective wanted to know why humans perform well in emergencies. I think this is connected, but I cannot prove it. Daewon studied the data, trying to see the pattern she was describing. He had never thought about these behaviors as unusual. They were just things people did. Maybe we are just anxious, he suggested. Maybe we worry too much, so we prepare too much. Perhaps, Yunhee said. But anxiety should decrease performance, not increase it. Yet in every crisis situation I have studied from human history, your species performs above expectations. Ships that should have failed make it home safely. Expeditions that should have been lost find their way back. Disasters that should have killed everyone somehow leave survivors. She pulled up historical data from Earth, the Apollo 13 mission, the Chilean mine rescue. Dozens of disasters where humans had survived against terrible odds. In each case, someone had extra knowledge they were not supposed to need. Someone had practiced a skill that was not part of their job. Someone had prepared for a situation that was not supposed to happen. Daewon felt a chill run down his spine. You think all that over-preparation is actually useful? I think it must be, Yunhee said. But I do not understand the mechanism. How does wasting energy on unlikely scenarios make you stronger? It violates every principle of efficient resource management. They sat in silence for a while, watching the neutron star through the window. Daewon thought about all the times he had done extra work, learned extra skills, prepared for problems that might never come. He had always thought of these as personal quirks, little habits that did not matter much. Now Yunhee was suggesting they were something bigger, something that defined his entire species. We should talk to the others, Daewon said finally. Ask them why they do these things. Maybe they can explain it better than the data can. Yunhee agreed. Over the next 2 weeks, they carefully interviewed various human crew members. They tried to be casual about it, not wanting to make people self-conscious. They asked questions during meals, during recreation time, during the quiet moments between work shifts. Hae-won, the medical officer, was the first person they spoke with properly. They found her in the cafeteria, eating a late dinner after a long shift. She looked tired but smiled when they sat down with her. Why do you stay late in the medical bay? Daewon asked, trying to sound casual. I notice you are often there after your shift ends. Hae-won shrugged. Someone might need help. I know the station AI can handle most emergencies, but... She paused, searching for words. A computer can treat an injury, but it cannot hold someone's hand when they are scared. It cannot talk to someone who is lonely or worried. I stay because I would want someone to be there for me if I needed help. But statistically, the chance of someone needing non-emergency medical care during night hours is very low, Yunhee said. Low is not zero, Hae-won replied. And besides, I feel better knowing I am available. It helps me sleep easier, actually. Yunhee made notes on her tablet, her compound eyes flickering as she processed this information. Next, they talked to Jinho. They found him in one of the maintenance corridors covered in grease and looking satisfied with himself. He had just finished fixing a coolant pump that had been making strange noises. That pump was not on the repair schedule, Daewon said. Jinho wiped his hands on a rag. No, but it was making a weird sound. Probably would have kept working for months. But why wait for it to break? Better to fix it now when I have time. Why does it bother you when things are not perfectly maintained? Yunhee asked. Jin-Ho thought for a moment. My grandfather was a carpenter back on Earth. He taught me that if you can fix something, you should fix it. Leaving something broken when you have the skill to repair it just feels wrong. Even if nobody else notices, I know. And I have to live with myself. Yunhee wrote more notes, her expression puzzled. Finally, they spoke with Mi-sun. The young intern was in her quarters, surrounded by tablets and papers covered in mathematical equations. She looked embarrassed when they asked about her extra studying. I know it seems weird, Mi-sun said. This stuff is way beyond what I need for my internship. But I like learning. And who knows? Maybe someday I will need it. Maybe there will be a problem nobody else can solve, and I will remember something from these equations and it will help. How likely is that scenario? Yunhee asked. Mi-sun laughed. Probably not very likely, but it is possible. And the learning itself is fun. It makes me feel ready for whatever comes next. After weeks of interviews, Daewon and Yunhee met again in the observation lounge. They had pages of notes, dozens of conversations, hundreds of data points. Yunhee spread everything out, looking overwhelmed. I still do not understand, she said. Every human gives me a different reason. Some say it feels right. Some say they were taught to behave this way. Some say they just want to be ready. But none of them can explain why they truly do it. Daewon looked at all the data and suddenly something clicked in his mind. Maybe that is the point, he said slowly. Maybe we do not do it for a logical reason. Maybe it is just part of being human. We prepare for the unknown because the future is always unknown. We cannot predict what will go wrong, so we get ready for everything. That is chaos, Yunhee said. That is the opposite of planning. No, Daewon said, understanding growing in his mind. It is the ultimate planning. We do not know what problems we will face, so we make ourselves ready for any problem. It looks wasteful because most of what we prepare for never happens. But when something does go wrong, someone is ready, Yunhee finished. Her compound eyes went wide. Someone always has the right skill or the right knowledge. Because humans prepare for everything. They stared at each other, both feeling like they had touched something important but could not quite grasp it fully. Outside the window, the neutron star continued its endless spin, and deep within its magnetic fields, forces were building that would soon put their theory to the test. The alarm woke everyone at 4 a.m, station time. It was not the gentle wake-up chime that usually started the day. This was harsh, urgent, and impossible to ignore. Daewon rolled out of bed, his heart pounding before his brain fully understood what was happening. He pulled on his uniform and rushed into the corridor. Other crew members were doing the same, stumbling out of their quarters with confused and worried faces. The lights had switched to emergency red, making everything look like a scene from a nightmare. All crew to the main briefing room, the station's computer voice announced. Repeat, all crew to the main briefing room immediately. The briefing room was crowded and tense. All 80 crew members squeezed in, humans and aliens standing shoulder to shoulder. Commander Kess, a Valorian with silver skin and 3 arms, stood at the front with a grim expression. Behind him, a large screen showed the neutron star, with angry red zones marked across its surface. We have a serious situation, Kess said without introduction. Our sensors detected a massive magnetic reconnection event building in the neutron star's magnetosphere. In approximately 48 hours, this station will be exposed to radiation levels far beyond our shield's capacity. Shocked murmurs filled the room. Daewon felt his stomach drop. He knew what magnetic reconnection meant. It was like a cosmic explosion, releasing enormous amounts of energy in sudden, violent bursts. The neutron star had been stable for years. Why was it acting up now? Why did we not detect this earlier? Someone asked. The buildup was gradual and hidden in the star's natural fluctuations, Kess replied. By the time our systems recognized the pattern, it was already at critical levels. We have 2 options. First, immediate evacuation. However, the nearest rescue ships are 3 days away. We would need to travel to meet them, meaning some crew members would be exposed to dangerous radiation during the journey. What is the second option? Haewon asked from somewhere in the crowd. We could attempt repairs to the station's primary shields, Kess said, but that would require at least 3 weeks of work with proper equipment, which we do not have. The math is simple. Evacuation is the only logical choice, Daewon pushed forward through the crowd. Wait, what if we use the magnetic field generators? Everyone turned to look at him. Kess's compound eyes narrowed. The research equipment? Those generators are designed for studying the neutron star, not for shielding. But they create magnetic fields, Daewon insisted. If we reconfigured them, maybe we could generate enough field strength to deflect the worst of the radiation, like a temporary shield. Kess pulled up calculations on the main screen. Numbers flashed by. Equations solved themselves. After a long minute, he shook his head. Theoretically possible, but the probability of success is only 3.7%. It would require constant manual recalibration, physical repairs in high radiation zones, and perfect coordination. Too many things could go wrong. 3.7% means it is possible, Jinho said, standing up from where he had been sitting. I can handle the repairs. I know those generators inside and out. I can do the recalibration math, Misun added, her young voice shaky but determined. I have been studying advanced field equations. I can calculate the adjustments. More human voices joined in. Wu Jin volunteered his navigation skills for supply runs. Hei-1 offered to manage medical support and keep everyone functioning under stress. One by one, every human crew member stepped forward with a skill, a knowledge, or an ability that could help. Kess looked stunned. You are suggesting we stake everyone's lives on a 3.7% chance? Yes, Hei-1 said simply. She pushed to the front of the crowd, her face calm but serious. Commander, you see 3.7% and think it is too small. We see 3.7% and think it is worth trying. We have been preparing for this our whole lives. Preparing? Kess looked confused. How could you prepare for this specific situation? We did not prepare for this situation, Daewon explained. We prepared for any situation. Every extra hour we worked, every extra skill we learned, every time we fixed something that was not broken yet. All of that was preparation. Jinho knows welding techniques from his grandfather. Misun studied mathematics she did not need. Wu Jin practiced navigation he never used. We did all this without knowing why. Now we know. Yunhee stepped forward and Daewon was surprised to see her standing with the humans. Commander Kess, she said formally. I would like to stay with the human crew and assist in their effort. That is illogical, Kess said. You are risking your life for a 3.7% chance of success. I need to see this, Yunhee replied. I need to understand. The Science Collective sent me to study humans. This is the most important data I could possibly gather. Kess looked around the room at the divided crew. The alien species, Valorians, Korthians, Belgari, and others, all stood on one side, logic and statistics guiding their choice. The humans stood on the other side, 12 people against 68, choosing to fight against terrible odds. I cannot order the aliens to stay, Kess said finally, but I will not stop the humans from trying. Those who wish to evacuate report to the docking bay in 1 hour. Those who wish to stay. He paused, his expression showing something that might have been respect. May fortune favor your irrational courage. The room cleared quickly. Most of the crew headed to their quarters to pack. The humans gathered together, along with Yunhee, forming a small group that suddenly felt very alone. We have 48 hours, Daewon said, looking at each person. Jinho, you need to map out which generators need physical repairs. Misun, start running calculations for field configurations. Wu Jin, check the shuttle for supply runs. Hei-1, set up medical stations in case anyone gets radiation exposure. Everyone else, we need to convert the research lab into a command center. What about me? Yunhee asked. Daewon smiled. You are going to help me figure out how to make this work. 2 heads are better than 1, even if 1 head has compound eyes. They heard the evacuation ships launching. Through the windows, they could see the vessels departing, carrying 68 crew members to safety. The station suddenly felt much larger and emptier. Well, Jinho said, breaking the heavy silence. I guess we should get to work. They scattered to their tasks. Daewon and Yunhee headed to the main research lab, pulling up schematics of the magnetic field generators. The equipment was designed to create precise, controlled fields for scientific measurements, not massive defensive shields. Making them work for protection would require creativity and luck. The generators can produce enough field strength, Daewon said, studying the numbers, but they were never meant to run at these power levels for extended periods. They will overheat, misalign, and possibly fail, which means constant monitoring and adjustment, Yunhee added. Someone will need to manually recalibrate them every few hours, and repair them when they break. Day-One said grimly. Which means spacewalks. In increasing radiation, Mi-sun burst into the lab carrying 3 tablets. I ran the field calculations, she said breathlessly. If we position the generators in a triangle formation and phase their outputs, we can create a standing wave pattern that reinforces itself. But the timing has to be perfect. Off by even a few milliseconds and the fields will interfere with each other instead of combining. Can you calculate the timing? Day-One asked. I already started, Mi-sun said, showing him screens full of equations. But the neutron star's magnetic field is changing constantly. I will need to recalculate every 4 hours to account for the variations. 4 hours? Yun-hee looked concerned. That means no sleep. Sleep is overrated, Mi-sun said with a tired smile. Besides, I studied for this. I might not have known it at the time, but I did. Over the next 6 hours, the small human crew transformed the station. Jin-ho mapped the generator locations and created a repair schedule. Hae-won set up medical stations with radiation treatments ready. Woo-jin prepped the shuttle for dangerous supply runs through the magnetic storm. Everyone worked with intense focus, using skills and knowledge they had accumulated over years of preparation. Yun-hee watched it all, taking notes on her tablet. She saw Jin-ho use welding techniques that were ancient by modern standards, but perfect for the station's old equipment. She saw Mi-sun solve equations using methods from different mathematical traditions, combining approaches in ways no single culture would have thought of. She saw Hae-won organize medical care with both scientific precision and human compassion. This is what I could not quantify, Yun-hee said quietly to Dae-won as they watched the others work. Each human has over-prepared in different ways. Together you cover every possible need. That is the point, Dae-won replied. One person cannot prepare for everything, but a group of people each preparing in their own way. Together, we are ready for anything. The station's computer announced the time. 36 hours until magnetic event reaches critical levels. Then we better get these generators online, Dae-won said. The battle was about to begin. The first 12 hours passed in a blur of work and exhaustion. Dae-won watched the neutron star through the lab windows, seeing it pulse with growing violence. The magnetic fields around it were visible now, glowing streams of energy that twisted and coiled like angry serpents. Jin-ho had already completed 2 spacewalks, repairing connections on the magnetic generators that had not been used at full power in years. He returned from the second walk looking pale and tired, his radiation badge showing yellow, a warning, but not critical yet. Generator 3 has a cracked coolant line, he reported, pulling off his helmet. I patched it with a compression seal, but it is not going to hold forever. Maybe 6 more hours. Can you fix it properly? Dae-won asked. Jin-ho shook his head. Not with the parts we have, but I can repatch it when it breaks. Just need someone to wake me up when the time comes. Hae-won helped him out of the suit. You need to rest. Radiation exposure combined with exhaustion is dangerous. 4 hours minimum. 4 hours, Jin-ho agreed, stumbling toward the sleeping area they had set up in the lab. Wake me if anything explodes. Mi-sun was hunched over her tablets, recalculating field alignments for the 3rd time. Her eyes were red from staring at screens, but her hands moved steadily across the equations. Magnetic flux is increasing faster than predicted, she reported. We need to boost generator output by 12%. Will they handle that much power? Yun-hee asked. Probably not, Mi-sun said honestly. But if we do not increase output, the fields will not be strong enough to deflect the radiation. We will fail slowly instead of maybe failing quickly. Dae-won made the decision. Increase the output. We came here to try, not to fail safely. The generators hummed louder as more power flowed through them. Dae-won watched the readouts nervously. Temperature rising. Stress increasing. Every system was operating beyond its design limits. It was like pushing a car to drive twice its maximum speed and hoping the engine did not explode. 20 hours into their effort, the first major crisis hit. Generator 2's cooling system failed completely, and the temperature shot into dangerous levels. Alarms shrieked through the station. Wake Jin-ho, Dae-won shouted, but Jin-ho was already stumbling into the lab, still half asleep but moving on instinct. How bad? He asked, pulling up the diagnostics. Total coolant pump failure, Dae-won said. We have maybe 10 minutes before the generator melts down. Jin-ho studied the schematics, his tired brain working through the problem. I cannot fix the pump in 10 minutes, but he traced a line on the screen. What if we reroute coolant from generator 4? It is not working as hard. We could share the cooling system between them. That is not standard procedure, Yun-hee said. Nothing we are doing is standard, Jin-ho replied, already pulling on his spacesuit. Woo-jin, I need you to pilot me to the junction point. Day 1, when I give the signal, shut down generator 2 for exactly 30 seconds. That is how long I will need to make the connection. 30 seconds without generator 2 means our field coverage drops by a third. Mi-sun warned. Then let us hope nothing bad happens in those 30 seconds, Jin-ho said, sealing his helmet. Woo-jin and Jin-ho rushed to the airlock. Daewon watched through the cameras as the small shuttle carried Jin-ho to the generator array. The neutron star's radiation was stronger now, making the space around the station glow with deadly energy. In position, Jin-ho's voice crackled over the radio. Ready for shutdown. Shutting down generator 2, Daewon said, his hand hovering over the control. Now, the generator powered down. Immediately, alarms warned of reduced field coverage. Daewon watched the clock, counting seconds. Outside, Jin-ho worked with desperate speed, connecting coolant lines in the harsh environment. 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, done, Jin-ho shouted. Power it back up. Daewon activated the generator. It came back online and coolant began flowing through the new connection. The temperature started dropping immediately. They had done it, but Jin-ho and Woo-jin were caught in a burst of radiation during the shuttle's return. When they came through the airlock, both of their badges were orange, significant exposure approaching dangerous levels. Haewon rushed them to the medical station. You need treatment. Both of you now. How long? Jin-ho asked. Minimum 4 hours of treatment, Haewon said firmly. We might not have 4 hours, Woo-jin said. Then I will work faster, Haewon replied. Already preparing medications. The hours crawled by. Every system was operating at maximum capacity. Mi-sun recalculated field equations every 4 hours exactly as planned. Her hands shaking from exhaustion but never making mistakes. Daewon manually adjusted the generators, making tiny corrections to keep them aligned. Yun-hee helped everywhere she could, learning human procedures on the fly. 36 hours into their ordeal, the magnetic reconnection event reached its peak. The neutron star's surface erupted with energy, and waves of radiation slammed into the station. The makeshift shields held but barely. Every alarm on the station was screaming. Then generator 1 began to fail. No, 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 Daewon muttered, watching the power levels fluctuate wildly. The magnetic coils are losing coherence. The whole generator is going to tear itself apart. Jin-ho tried to stand, but Haewon pushed him back down. You are in no condition to go outside. Then we are finished, Jin-ho said. Without generator 1, the field configuration collapses. We cannot protect the station. Silence fell over the lab. Everyone was too exhausted to think, too tired to find another solution. They had pushed themselves beyond every limit, used every skill, tried every trick. And it was not enough. Yun-hee stood up suddenly. Wait, she said. The oscillation pattern. The generator is not failing. It is resonating. What? Daewon pulled up the detailed readings. She was right. The generator was not breaking down randomly. It was vibrating at a specific frequency, creating a feedback loop with the neutron star's magnetic field. I have seen this pattern before, Yun-hee said, her voice excited. Years ago I studied human music theory as a curiosity. String instruments create standing waves through resonance. The frequency patterns... She pulled up her old notes on her tablet, hands moving frantically. If we tune the generator to match the neutron star's natural frequency instead of fighting against it, we could use the resonance to amplify our field strength. Mi-sun looked at the numbers. That is insane. We would be riding the wave instead of blocking it. Can you calculate the harmonics? Yun-hee asked. Mi-sun's fingers flew across her tablet. Maybe. If I combine wave mechanics with your music theory, yes, I think I can. How long? Daewon asked. 10 minutes, Mi-sun said. The generator will tear itself apart in 5 minutes, Daewon said. Then we buy her 5 minutes, Haewon said. She turned to Jin-ho. Tell me how to manually stabilize the generator. I'm going out there. You are a doctor, not an engineer, Jin-ho protested. And you are too injured to work, Haewon replied. Besides, I took extra engineering courses in medical school. Just in case. Teach me what to do, Jin-ho explained quickly, drawing diagrams on a screen. Haewon memorized every detail, asked smart questions, and then suited up. She was in the airlock before anyone could argue further. Day One watched through the cameras as Hai-Wan reached the failing generator. Her hands moved with careful precision, following Jin-Ho's instructions. Bypass panel 3, Jin-Ho coached over the radio. Now reroute power through the secondary coupling. Got it, Hai-Wan said. Generator is stable. How much time did I buy? Maybe 3 minutes, Jin-Ho said. Not enough, Mi-sun said, still calculating. I need 2 more minutes. Then I will give you 2 more minutes, Hai-Wan said calmly. She began making additional adjustments, improvising based on what Jin-Ho had taught her and her own engineering knowledge. In the lab, Mi-sun worked with Yun-Hee, combining human mathematics with Valorian analytical precision and insights from music theory that nobody would have thought to apply to a neutron star. It was crazy. It was brilliant. It was exactly the kind of solution that came from over-preparation in unrelated fields. Done, Mi-sun shouted. Sending the new frequency to your console, Day One. Day One saw the calculations appear on his screen. They looked impossible using the generator in a way it was never designed for. But the math was solid. Hai-Wan, get back inside, now. On my way, Hai-Wan replied. Day One input the new frequency. The generator's vibrations changed, syncing with the neutron star's magnetic field instead of fighting against it. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the field strength readings began climbing. The generator was not creating its own shield. It was using the neutron star's energy to amplify its own field, like a surfer riding a wave. The radiation levels outside the station remained deadly, but the shields held. More than held, they were actually stronger than before. It is working, Yun-Hee said, disbelief in her voice. The resonance is stable. We are using the star's own energy against itself. Hai-Wan made it back through the airlock, her radiation badge glowing orange but not red. Day-Wan helped her out of the suit and they all stood together watching the displays. The magnetic storm raged outside, but inside the station they were safe. How long will this last? Jin-Ho asked. The magnetic reconnection event should peak in another 6 hours, then gradually decrease, Mi-sun said. If the generators hold, we will make it. If, Day-Wan repeated. But for the fur, the magnetic storm gradually weakened over the next 10 hours. The neutron star's violent energy bursts became less frequent, then settled back into its normal pulsing rhythm. The makeshift shields held throughout, riding the resonance wave that Yun-Hee and Mi-sun had discovered. By the time the rescue ships arrived, the danger had passed completely. The evacuated crew members returned to find the station intact, the research equipment saved, and 12 exhausted humans collapsed in various corners of the lab. Yun-Hee sat among them, her compound eyes reflecting the soft light of the neutron star outside. Commander Kess was the first through the airlock. He stopped in the lab doorway, looking at the scene with an expression that might have been shock. You succeeded, he said simply. We did, Day-Wan replied from where he sat on the floor, too tired to stand. Against 3.7% odds. How? Kess asked, genuinely curious. Day-Wan gestured vaguely at the exhausted crew around him. Jin-Ho knew welding from his grandfather. Mi-sun studied extra mathematics for fun. Hai-Wan took engineering courses she did not need. Wu-Jin practiced navigation as a hobby.
Yun-Hee studied human music theory out of curiosity.
None of us knew these things would matter, but when we needed them, they were there. Kess was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I see. Your species prepares for the unpredictable by preparing for everything. Something like that, Hai-Wan said with a tired smile. Over the next week, life on the station gradually returned to normal. The human crew members recovered from their radiation exposure. The makeshift shield system was carefully powered down, and the generators returned to their research functions. Medical teams checked everyone thoroughly, amazed that the injuries were not worse. But something had changed. The other species on the station looked at the humans differently now. There was new respect in their eyes mixed with curiosity. Kess himself asked Day-Wan for a meeting to discuss the crisis response, wanting to understand the human thought process. Yun-Hee spent those days completing her report. She sat in her quarters surrounded by data from months of observation and the incredible events of the magnetic storm. Her fingers moved across her tablet, trying to put into words what she had learned. Finally, she asked Day-Wan to meet her in the observation lounge. the same place where they had first discussed her findings weeks ago. The neutron star spun peacefully outside the window now as if the violent storm had never happened. "I finished my report," Yun-hee said. "I want you to read it before I send it to the Science Collective." Daewon took her tablet and began reading. The report was detailed and thorough, filled with data and observations, but the conclusion was written in simple, clear language. It read, "After 6 months of study and direct observation during a critical survival situation, I have identified the core characteristic that makes humanity remarkable among spacefaring species. Humans do not optimize for efficiency, they optimize for possibility. Most species, including my own, prepare for likely scenarios. We calculate probable risks and allocate resources accordingly. This is logical and efficient, but it leaves us vulnerable to unlikely events. When faced with a situation outside our preparations, we fail. Humans prepare differently. They overlearn, overtrain, and overprepare across a wide range of skills and knowledge areas, most of which appear unnecessary at the time. By statistical analysis, this seems wasteful. However, this approach means that when facing any unexpected situation, there is a high probability that someone in a human group has relevant preparation. During the Meridian 7 crisis, humans utilized skills from ancient crafts, theoretical mathematics, cross-disciplinary knowledge, and even artistic understanding of harmonic resonance. None of these preparations were specifically for this situation, yet all proved essential. This is not coincidence. This is the result of a species-wide strategy of comprehensive readiness. Humans inherently understand that the future is unpredictable. Rather than trying to predict specific scenarios, they make themselves ready for unknown challenges. They learn things they might never use. They maintain skills beyond job requirements. They help others without expectation of direct benefit, creating social networks that provide support during crises. This behavior appears inefficient only when measured against specific known goals. When measured against the full spectrum of possible futures, it is the most efficient strategy possible. Humans trade minor inefficiency in normal circumstances for massive advantages during crises. My recommendation to the Science Collective: we should not try to make humans more efficient. We should try to learn from their approach to preparation. The question is not why humans waste resources on unlikely scenarios. The question is why other species leave themselves vulnerable by preparing only for likely ones. Daewon finished reading and handed back the tablet. "You understand now," he said. "It was not a question." "I do," Yun-hee replied. "When you first showed me humans working extra hours, learning extra skills, fixing things that were not broken, I thought it was chaos, random behavior without purpose. But it is not random at all. It is the most purposeful thing I have ever seen. You are collectively preparing for a future you cannot predict. You could call it hope made practical," Daewon suggested. "We hope for the best, but we prepare for everything else." Yun-hee considered this. "Hope made practical. Yes, that is a good way to describe it. What will the Science Collective do with your report?" Daewon asked. "I do not know," Yun-hee admitted. "This challenges fundamental principles of Valorian efficiency. But after living through the crisis with you, after seeing what over-preparation can achieve, I think they need to hear it. Other species need to hear it too." She paused, then added quietly, "I am going to recommend that the Science Collective establish cultural exchange programs with humanity. Not to study you as subjects, but to learn from you as teachers." Daewon smiled. "I think humans would like that. We enjoy sharing knowledge. It is another one of those inefficient behaviors we do." Yun-hee sent the report that evening. Within days, it spread beyond the Valorian Science Collective. Other species requested copies. Researchers from different civilizations wanted to visit human communities and observe this behavior themselves. The Meridian 7 incident became a famous case study in xenopsychology and crisis management. Daewon found it amusing that surviving a magnetic storm had turned into a galactic teaching moment. But he also understood why it mattered. In a universe full of efficient species optimized for known challenges, humanity represented a different approach. They were the species that prepared for unknown challenges and that made them valuable partners. 3 months after the crisis, Yun-hee visited Daewon's quarters again. This time, she pressed the door chime and waited politely to be invited in. When he opened the door, he was surprised to see her carrying several books and tablets. "What is all this?" he asked. "Human poetry," Yun-hee said, showing him one tablet. Ancient Earth history, she indicated another. Cooking recipes from various cultures. Traditional music theory. Philosophical texts. She smiled, an expression she had learned from humans. I am learning things I do not need for my job. Just in case, Daewon laughed. You are becoming more human. Perhaps, Yunhee said. Or perhaps I am becoming more ready. Humans have been preparing for the future for thousands of years. You accumulated knowledge, skills, and traditions long before space travel, long before meeting other species. You were getting ready for challenges you could not even imagine. She set down her collection of learning materials. My species is very old, very advanced, but we stopped learning things we did not immediately need. We became efficient but also brittle. When the unexpected happens, we break. Humans bend instead. You have been bending for millennia, getting stronger each time. So you are going to over-prepare like we do? Daewon asked. I am going to try, Yunhee said. And I am going to teach other Valorians to try. We have much to learn from humanity. Not about technology or science, we are already advanced in those areas. But about resilience, about adaptability, about being ready for whatever comes next. They stood together by the window, watching the neutron star. The same star that had nearly killed them all now looked peaceful and beautiful, its deadly radiation safely contained by distance and shielding. You know what I find most interesting? Yunhee said. None of you prepared specifically for a magnetic storm. Jinho learned welding for personal reasons. Misun studied mathematics because she enjoyed it. I learned music theory out of curiosity. We all prepared for different things, in different ways for different reasons, but when the crisis came, all those different preparations fit together perfectly. That is the beauty of it, Daewon replied. No single human can prepare for everything. But humanity as a whole, we cover all the possibilities. Everyone prepares in their own way, and somehow it all works together when it matters. Like a puzzle where the pieces do not know they are part of a bigger picture, Yunhee said. Exactly, Daewon agreed. We are all preparing for a future we cannot see, learning skills we might not use, helping people we might never meet again. Individually, it looks wasteful, but together it makes